These days, we find ourselves in an ongoing battle over principles, policies, politics, and people. We struggle with various forces who seek to get us to behave in predictable ways, vying for our attention, our money, our vote, even our prayers. This one wants us to say this, that one wants us to buy that. It comes from all sides. What have we to guide us, protect us even? In a word, character. It's our character which gives us the perspective we use to navigate our world. But good character isn't something we're necessarily born with any more than bad character. Character is aspirational. It's something we choose for ourselves based on what we've learned, the things to which we've been exposed, and we choose it every day, consciously or not. But like a good garden, it's how we prepare the soil, as well as what we plant and how we cultivate it, which determines how well equipped we shall be to rise above the conflicts of the world and project a non-anxious presence. It's our character which determines the future most. May we hold this thought in our hearts as we proceed through our time together. By this light may we better see our way. By this light may we better know our true selves. By this light may we glimpse the depth of our character. And by this light may we learn to share its glow with others.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night. From above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America. Through trials and strain, through her learnings and yearnings, through her storms and her soft, gentle rains, may her people come together, joining now from whence they've roamed. God bless America. God bless each one of us. God bless this whole wide world. My home, our home, sweet home of the brave.
I've spent a lot of life pretending not to care when the word nude is used as a color, pretending that the microaggression I just experienced was okay, and pretending that race, class, gender, sexual orientation, or religion don't matter. But pretending isn't unique to me. We all pretend. Pretending isn't unique to any class, race, gender, sexual orientation, or religion. It comes in different forms for all of us. As children, we're encouraged to pretend. We use our imaginations and create whole worlds and scenarios. Worlds where we are the heroes or heroines of our stories. No one ever tells a child not to be their own hero. But then we grow up and roads diverge. Some people are encouraged to continue to be the heroes in their stories, while others are dissuaded. Their hero tendencies become threatening, and their ability to be their own heroes are questioned. To be honest, it was hard for me to write this talk. Although I could cite several reasons why, they'd all be in avoidance of simply stating the truth. Celebrating the heroism demonstrated in our country and or my blackness may not be acceptable in this setting. And yet, what else could I talk about? So I waited, ignored, and procrastinated until there was no more time left to wait. In times like these, I often turn to Maya Angelou's poem, And Still I Rise, because it so accurately captures the pride and strength I feel. The pride that comes from having felt incredibly defeated and still prevailing. The pride that comes from working hard to overcome something and becoming a hero, even if it's in my own eyes. So I chose to focus on that. Still, we rise. My favorite Bible text is Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 through 8. It reads like this in the New International Version. There's a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. Being that there's a time for everything, then duality is normal. Those of us who want to celebrate should be allowed to celebrate. Those of us who are hurt are also allowed to hurt. No one should give up being, feeling, or expressing themselves for any reason. But it takes great character to be able to allow others to do what is right for them. It takes strength of character to see that someone else's reality is different than yours, and that's okay. It takes character to allow someone to be or not be in your life if their presence doesn't serve you. Why do I say character? Because character is what it takes to overcome any adversity we face. Character is built by doing what is right to our very souls. Back in 2009-2010, I worked as a real estate agent. It was a fun time because I love everything about real estate. Helping people get into their dream homes or out of the places they called home for a long time was rewarding. I also love the architecture and decor. Anyway, one day I had a meeting with a potential seller who lived across the street from a parking lot of a bar. I couldn't find parking on the street in front of the house, so I parked in the parking lot. After having had the meeting, I was backing out of my parking space when I hit a car that was parked behind me. Now, I could tell you that the lot was small, but I know that it was just that I wasn't as fully present as I could have been. I had had a good meeting and I was excited. I quickly pulled back into my space and got out to look at the cars. My car had a noticeable bump in the bumper. Not so good because it was a new car to us. The other car had a bit of a scratch. It was negligible, really. But I didn't feel right leaving. So I went into the bar and asked who owned the red car in the parking lot. A man came over and said it was his car. So I explained to him what happened. We walked out to the parking lot and he looked at his car. Then he looked really puzzled. He looked that way because he didn't see anything. Of course, I told him I was willing to give him my information and we'd pay for the damage. And then he looked at my car and he said, "Looks like you need to pay for your damage. I don't see anything on my car. Don't worry about it." We parted ways, and that dent stayed in our bumper until our car literally died and we donated it to charity. The scenario could have been so different on that day had reasonable people not been involved. I could have driven away without finding the owner, but my conscience and my soul wouldn't allow that. The man whose car I'd hit, he could have demanded some money, but his character, his conscience didn't allow that. Instead, we had a brief connection, our faith in humanity intact, or maybe restored, and we went about our lives. Events happen to us all the time that challenge who we are, what we believe, and what we're willing to stand for. They're big, they're small, they're all meaningful. If we open our minds, hearts, and ears to learning and listening to what life delivers, we realize there is a time for everything. There's a time to listen with an open heart and soul when someone tells you they're incredibly hurt, because listening is the only way to discover why and how to help. There's a time to center yourself in a conversation and a time to allow someone else to shine. We're human. It's natural for us to seek to be seen, but that's not always what's necessary. By contrast, a couple of years ago, I jumped into my car to go spend a bit of time with my parents. As I drove up to their house and up their driveway, I noticed that my dad's brand new car was crashed in the back. When I say crashed, it was noticeably crashed. So I went in and I said, "Dad, what happened to the car? Are you okay?" "Yes." Someone hit us in the parking lot while we were shopping. We came back and found it that way. I was shocked. As someone who's sought out a car owner when there was barely a scratch, it was unfathomable to me that someone could cause the kind of damage that I saw on their car and simply drive away. But we do it all the time. We do it when we ignore the small voice inside us that says, that's wrong. Or when we run roughshod over people because they aren't saying what we think they should be saying. None of us is immune. I've often wondered why Ecclesiastes 3 has spoken to me for so long. As I took time to think about it this week, I realized something. Being part of a marginalized group, I'm often keenly aware of the dichotomy of life. I'm aware that there are going to be bad and very bad days, but there will also be good and very good days. The needs of the many far outweigh the needs of the few or the one. But our needs individually are still valid. I will lose or fail a lot, but I'll also win, especially when I stay true to myself. I will be trod down because I'm a woman, because I'm Black, because I'm the child of immigrants, because I'm a liberal-thinking, justice-seeking activist. But for those same reasons, still I rise. For me, rising on the side of history is important. Rising on the right side of history is important. John McCain, a prisoner of war who was offered the opportunity to go home because of who his father was, chose to stay with his brothers in arms until they could all go home together. He rose. Martin Luther King Jr., a preacher man who could have easily stayed behind the scenes, behind the pulpit, to protect himself, chose to be on the front lines as a beacon for us all, and was ruthlessly hated and subsequently murdered. He rose. Harriet Tubman, a self-emancipated enslaved woman who could have lived her life freely in the North, never thinking of those she left behind, chose to return under the threat of re-enslavement time and time again to emancipate the people most dear to her. She rose. All these people have something in common. Character. History does like to cleanse and whitewash itself, but in the end, what matters is what they did. Right now, our country is on the precipice of rising to greatness once again. We're on the verge of escaping the fate of many great empires that have come before us. But how and where we come down depends on us. Each one of us. Are we listening? Are we staying open to the conversations that make us uncomfortable? Are we learning? Are we processing? There's a time for everything because it's a universe of duality. But in the end, when we listen to that still small voice, when we take time to understand ourselves and those around us, when we build our character, still we rise. There's a quote I've heard over the years that sums it up for me quite nicely. Watch your thoughts. They become your words. Watch your words. They become your actions. Watch your actions. They become your habits. Watch your habits. They become your character. Watch your character. It becomes your destiny. I'd like to leave you with this final story. In ancient times, a king had his men place a boulder on a roadway. He then hid in the bushes and watched to see if anyone would move the boulder out of the way. Some of the king's wealthiest merchants and courtiers passed by and simply walked around it. Many blamed the king for not keeping the roads clear, but none of them did anything about getting the stone removed. One day, a peasant came along, carrying vegetables. Upon approaching the boulder, the peasant laid down his burden and tried to push the stone out of the way. After much pushing and straining, he finally managed. After the peasant went back to pick up his vegetables, he noticed a purse lying in the road where the boulder had been. The purse contained many gold coins and a note from the king explaining that the gold was for the person who removed the boulder from the road. Every obstacle we come across gives us an opportunity to improve our character. While the lazy complain, others are creating opportunities through kind hearts, generosity, and willingness to get things done. There's a time for everything. What you're experiencing, what you're feeling, is its time. How will you allow it to build your character? How will you rise?
Be at ease now and breathe. As you breathe, focus on the sound and sensation of the air filling and exiting your body. Feel it expanding you, fulfilling the promise of your body to sustain your experience here on earth, your classroom, your contract with God. Feel the oxygen and nitrogen nourishing your cells, giving you life. Now consider the tiny spark of your divinity. Somewhere inside you, place this spark and give it a home. Decide where it lives and welcome it there. Be glad it has found its place and offer a sense of welcoming toward it. Feel its light glowing brighter and warmer as you project your hospitality, your love, your hope. As it enters its new domain within you, consider its purpose. Ask it to tell you. It will. Ask your divine spark to tell you why you are here and for whom. Listen for the answer. Ask for your heart to be opened. Ask for your mind to be freed. Ask for the veil to be lifted and see for the first time your character and all that it has brought about in the world. See both the good as well as the bad, the warts as well as the wings. Give thanks for what you see. Bid the good parts hail and be welcomed. Release the bad parts away into the universe where they shall trouble you no more. Picture watering the better parts of your character like seeds and watch them grow. They belong to you. You may allow them to flourish or wither. The decision is yours as always. Breathe deeply and give thanks. Namaste.